Well, I think it takes at least another 10 hours. The baby won't be coming until noon. Don't be easy on yourself. You're my housekeeper. Quit being lazy and get the food ready. My mother-in-law's abusive words and the pain of labor made me fall to my knees. My name is Julia. I am 32 years old. My husband Timothy is 35 years old. We were married in a typical same workplace marriage. I am currently a housewife on maternity leave. I got pregnant a year after we got married. At that time, we had just built the home of our dreams. Every time I inhale, I was excited by the smell of the spicy fresh wood. I was filled with the joy of waiting for my baby in this house. However, it was in this place that an unbelievable drama unfolded. On the day we moved into our newly completed home, my in-laws came to visit to help. They certainly helped a little, but my mother-in-law took advantage of me and demanded a duplicate key for the house. What? Why would I give my mother-in-law a key to my house? When I tried to refuse, my husband said to me, "Oh, Mom, don't worry. I got to buy food now. And I go make a duplicate key on the way back." What? What an absurd husband. Sure, he's the son of that mother. Or am I the one who has some kind of crazy sense of values? I looked at my husband in confusion, and he said, "I want my house to be lively. Don't you agree? I want this place to be where people gather. You are also pregnant, and you need some support, don't you?" I was stunned and dumbfounded by his words. My bad premonition came true. My mother-in-law comes to our house every morning at 9 a.m. exactly. And she brings her laundry to my house and said, "Whether you do laundry for 2 or 4, the work is the same, right?" And then she hands me a bucket full of laundry with a mean grin on her face. And while I am doing the laundry, she said, "Is breakfast ready yet?" I asked my mother-in-law with suppressed irritation, "Didn't you eat at home?" "No. I only made my husband eat. He has to be up early in the morning for work. But I have time, so I decided to have my morning meal here." Huh? What do you mean, morning meal? My husband usually has coffee and toast for breakfast. I just have a bite of some of his leftovers and that's it. But since my mother-in-law comes over, I have to add salad and soup to the menu. My mother-in-law calls it a special morning meal, and she always demands it on weekdays morning. And my mother-in-law eats lunch at our house too. When it comes to dinner, she says that infamous line again. Whether you're cooking for 2 or 4, the work is the same. Just more ingredients. My mother-in-law, using the same logic as the laundry, would bring home half of the food I cooked in her Tupperware. One day, after about 3 months of living like this, I've been cooking for everyone every time. I was wondering, could you prepare dinner once in a while, please? I fearfully asked my mother-in-law to prepare dinner. Then she said, "What? You are giving orders to your husband's mother? Don't you have any respect? My mother-in-law trained me the same way. What a disgraceful daughter-in-law this person is. You do what you have to do and get on with it." I couldn't say anything back to her. Come to think of it, my mother-in-law never called me anything but you or this person. I was vaguely thinking about that while I was listening to her reprimanding me. "Hey, Timothy." About your mother? I was fed up with my mother-in-law's behavior, so I tried to talk to my husband about it. But he would not listen to me at all. Just listen to my mom. You'll be fine. I mean, it's common sense to obey your parents. So I continued to live in this unfair situation until the last month of labor. Then one day, I finally went into labor. The contractions started in the middle of the night and came at the regular intervals. Of course, I couldn't do housework at the time. Then my mother-in-law came in. She entered our house without pressing the intercom, using a duplicate key. She entered the living room and said, "What? You're not ready for breakfast yet? You are so lazy. Now, hurry up." As usual, my mother-in-law yells at me. Usually, I would say at least good morning to her, even though I didn't want to. But at that time, my contraction got so intense that even my mother-in-law's yell could be heard in the distance. Waves of pain came on and off without pause. Sweat keeps dripping on the floor. Please, take me to the hospital. My voice trailed off with the waves of contractions. Well, I think it will take at least another 10 hours. The baby won't be coming until noon. Don't be easy on yourself. You are my housekeeper. Get the breakfast ready. Now. I gasped in pain, unable to respond to my mother-in-law's angry voice. Timothy, help me. My vision blurred, and I was losing consciousness. I clung to my husband's lap, but my husband just closed the newspaper he was reading, lightly patted on my head, and said, "If Mom said it takes more time, then I guess it does. She's been there, so why don't you just listen to her? Anyway, how soon can breakfast be ready?" At that moment, I couldn't take it anymore. My water broke. I was rushed to the hospital by ambulance and managed to get a proper treatment. It's a healthy baby boy. When I was stunned in the hospital room after giving birth, a nurse kindly called out to me, "I told you to call the hospital if you had contractions every 5 minutes. Why didn't you call us earlier?" Well, I actually wanted to do so. I begged my mother-in-law and my husband, but they told me that it was still fine. When I explained the situation, the nurse sighed. Hey, are you sure you want to go home to those people and raise a child? The nurse asked me worriedly. I knew what she meant. The nurse was right. Even after the baby is born, will I still be called you or this person and be treated like a housekeeper? Would I be able to raise this baby in that house? Such anxiety must have shown my face. You are going to be a mother now. Protecting yourself means protecting your child. Take care of yourself for the sake of your child, okay? The nurse comforted me. Protect myself for the sake of my child. The nurse smiled and patted me on the back. A mother needs to have a healthy body and mind, you know? For the sake of my child, I will be strong. I must be strong. I am determined. As I looked at my baby's tiny hands, I clasped my trembling palms. A few days later, I took the baby and went back home. There, same as always, was my mother-in-law ready to torment me. Well, the housekeeper is back. She grinned at me as soon as I entered the house. But I had made up my mind to do something completely different. I slammed my hospital bag on the floor with a sound. I took a deep breath and said in a loud voice, that echoed throughout the living room. I am not your housekeeper. Huh? I guess she had no idea of my yell. My mother-in-law's shoulders shook, and her face scrunched up. My husband also put down the newspaper he was reading, gulped, and stared at me. You make me sick. Both you and your stupid son. You decided to give me another 10 hours of that labor pain. And I ended up in an ambulance? I pity you, that you don't have a shred of common sense or humanity. I was surprised to hear my voice come out like that. Silence ruled the living room. I would not be silenced anymore. I would not be dictated to. I will protect my child, and I will protect myself as a mother. With these words, my revenge began. The next day, my husband took off to work. He hadn't spoken to me since yesterday. Did he think it was wrong to treat me like his mother does? Or was he surprised that I was suddenly snapped? I didn't know what my husband's true intention was, but he ate a piece of toast as usual and left. After he left for work, I had an hour before my mother-in-law came. In the meantime, I called the locksmith. I called them to change the lock of the front door, of course. So my mother-in-law wouldn't enter with the old key. At 9 a.m., as expected, I heard a rattling sound try to open the front door. The doorbell also rang repeatedly. I can hear she keeps banging the door roughly too. Hey, Hugh! Why the door wouldn't open? I heard my mother-in-law yelling. This is enough. Quit jogging around. Hey, you hear me? Without hesitation, I called 911. Yes, trespassing. A police car came right away with sirens. Soon, my mother-in-law's yelling had stopped, and they were asking her about what was going on. The police officer asked me as well. So I said I had no idea. After a while, the police took my mother-in-law away. I went back to the living room and enjoyed my tea. The baby cried, so I fed him. The baby's skin was squishy and cute. I couldn't stand it. If my mother-in-law soiled this precious new baby. After 8 p.m., I heard the sound of somebody trying to open the front door again. The doorbell rings again and again. Hey, what is this? What's going on here? My husband called me on my phone. I changed the locks. I couldn't stand your mother, so I banned her from the house. I told my husband coldly. Huh? What are you talking about? Did you forget? I told you I want this house to be where people gather. I want a quiet house, and I want a house where my family can feel at home. I've given you what you wanted all this time. Now it's my turn to have what I want. I don't want to raise a baby in this environment. I told my husband what I wanted to say. What? No, you can't. Besides, my mom had been helping you, hadn't she? Great. He really doesn't understand anything. I said to my husband in disgust. No, she'd be nothing but a nuisance to me. I will never forget how your mother treated me. For your information, I'm going back to work after my maternity leave. It's perfectly fine with me if I don't see you for the rest of my life, you know? I'm gonna tell your colleagues that you made me work until my water broke. After I told him so, I hung up the phone. Then I heard a car engine. So I guess he had given up and was headed for his parents' house. I went back to the living room, watched TV, and fed the baby when he cried. And I fell asleep with my baby in my arms. As I expected, I got a call from my father-in-law the next day. Julia, I'd like to know what happened. What made you so angry? You were such a calm and gentle person. What happened? I guess my wife and son must have done something terrible to you, correct? My father-in-law was upset on the phone. I never want either of them in this house again, especially your wife. I will visit you there this weekend. See you then. I said to my father-in-law that and hung up the phone. It's a confrontation, me versus my husband and mother-in-law. But I have a baby to protect. I can't lose. And so, I took the baby and headed for my parents-in-law's house the weekend. Well, it's so cute. I quickly brushed aside my mother-in-law's hand on the baby. Don't touch him. Ever. You sent me to the hospital in an ambulance. My mother-in-law's eyes went wide, and she flinched at my words. What? You surprised? You've talked to me like that 1,000 times, haven't you? What is this person? Freaking out once you were attacked like this? I replied violently, imitating her words. Ambulance? My father-in-law was stunned, as if he had never heard of it before. See? I knew they hadn't told him about the ambulance. Your wife almost killed me. The constructions were so bad. So I asked for help. But they ignored me. She even called me a housekeeper and ordered me to make breakfast. My water broke on the spot, and I was rushed to the hospital, almost losing consciousness. I went straight to my father-in-law. Jesus Christ! My father-in-law's hands were trembling. My counterattack continues. It all started the day after we moved into our new home. I laid it all out for him. Literally everything. That she came to my house every morning to ask for breakfast, calling it a special morning meal. That she brought her own laundry and made me do the laundry every time. That she made me cook all the dinners and brought them home in Tupperware. She had me do this kind of thing until my water broke, in pain. I didn't even know. I was at work early in the morning, and I had no idea. My father-in-law's shoulders slumped in disappointment. But I once had a suspicion that I was eating the food you made. My father-in-law said in a voice that sounded as if he was trying to be squeezed out of him. For 40 years of marriage, I've been eating my wife's food. I knew that the taste would suddenly change. But when she said she'd changed her cooking, I believed her. The worst thing that can happen to a married couple is a lie. Julia, I'm sorry. I felt sorry for my father-in-law, that he didn't know what was going on. But I said to him, but your wife also told me that your mother bullied her too. In other words, you had also turned a blind eye to that situation, hadn't you? That your wife was being bullied by your mother, just like me? I accused my father-in-law. My father-in-law must have been astonished by what I said. He shook his head weakly. After a moment's pause, my mother was already in heaven when we got married. It was my turn to be surprised. What? What do you mean? Yes, my mother-in-law made up the whole story. Does that mean that you were deceived by your wife? And I was sacrificed. Is that correct? My father-in-law dropped his gaze at my question. That's what it would look like. I could see the regret on my father-in-law's face. I gave my mother-in-law last words. This person came to my house and treated me like a housekeeper and abused me under the name of daughter-in-law. I would never be able to raise a child in such a ruthless living environment. Hey, you hear me? I'm talking to you, you lying bitch. I'd forgotten how to call her anymore. It's enough to call this woman whatever, like she's been doing to me. And my father-in-law followed me. Yes, my wife's lies and behavior are unforgivable. But my son is also to blame. Said that, my father-in-law turned the tables on my husband. Neither my husband nor my mother-in-law could say anything. You are both an evil influence on my baby's development. If I protect myself, I protect my baby. I'm going to end this now to protect my baby. I held out the divorce papers I had prepared for them. And after a while, I went back to work. My ex-husband had already left the company. I guess he was afraid of being exposed to gossip. Furthermore, my ex-mother-in-law was divorced from my ex-father-in-law. I guess his sense of justice was strongly provoked by his wife's constant lies and the bullying toward me. My ex-mother-in-law never showed her face again, and she moved far away. And our life was at peace. Sometimes my father-in-law came to visit me. He smiles when he sees his grandson. How sweet! He's such a little guy. My son cackles when his grandfather holds up his favorite toy. I want to protect this little cute smile. Looking into his eyes, I vow in my heart to give him the happiest future. Thank you for watching to the end. Please subscribe to our channel if you like. See you in the next video.